What's up, y'all? We got 30 in here. It's your boy GRC. This is Crypto in the Morning. We had a wild day in crypto yesterday. Yesterday was a wild day in the crypto world. Why? The Bitcoin price went from 19,800 down $200. No, I'm just kidding. Nothing happened with the price. Bitcoin is teeting on that 19K line like, oh my God, thin ice, baby. Sam knows it's thin ice. Everyone in the world with the bag knows it's thin ice. It's like everyone is just like, one more dude dumps. That one dude's waiting to dump because you can always get that 12% pump, right? And they always wait for that. And then once it's confirmed down, numbers are in, panic, they just dump it. God damn, crypto's wild. Guys, we have a big one today. I was on all night with Orca, Access Live, Wales only. I was trying to keep up with Access Live, going through the absolute quantum physics, mechanical life, God, consciousness, life stuff. And it was absolutely incredible. Afterwards, I got off. Of course, it was time for bed, being that it was 12:30 at night. And GRC is doing a little bit of that late night special. But then what happens? I see RH in the spaces. So I say, well, I'll just play this while I go to bed here. And then I hear Tangent. I hear the voice of a man named Tangent. And they start debating. They said, Bitcoin debate right now. Right now. And I was like, oh, snap. And RH went through a lot of things about Bitcoin that I really thought were interesting. And I really want Sam to hear them. I'm going to try to pull up. So if you go to 2 hours and 37 minutes on that Orca thing, and just scoot back a little on it if you can, Sam, just listen to it while you're on mute, just to get a picture, because Tangent kind of goes back and forth with him for a minute about just like conjecture. And then they start talking like in a more organized frame. If we could pull that up, it might be too clunky to pull up because I can't remember the exact conversation last night, but some gems about Bitcoin. And when I say gems, I'm not the guy to confirm or deny that something's real. When I say gems, I said some information that I maybe haven't heard before, maybe good or bad. RH was being really cool last night, being honest, talking shit, saying stupid stuff on there. RH, stop saying stuff on the internet that people are going to point out relentlessly. It's silly, but we love you. All right. 236. All right. I'm going to read the chat real quick, guys. I've been streaming like crazy, so I just feel ultimate power over this airwaves. Like I've just been on the streams. Like I'm literally more of an attachment to this computer than I am to the real world now. It's fucking insane. It's mega speed for scalability. MoFit Meals, great to see your beautiful smiling face. Super Hex Win, you know that I want you on here, and you've been dodging me for a year now. Just kidding, I love you. The weekly crypto alpha memes. What's up, guys? Symphony Wave, Bob Lagai. Bob Lagai's been everywhere. Thank you so much for your support as always. Firefighting Nen82. Good morning, all. Looking forward to this stream of an epic debate last night. Yes. Happy 4th of July. Good morning, Hexicans. From Crypto in the Morning Twitter to YouTube. Good stuff. Yes, I went from Crypto in the Morning Twitter. I had about 86 people in there. We tried to transfer them here, guys. I'm going to drop that link below in 1 second while the song's playing, guys. Making a food run. So I'm going to be a few minutes late. Tangent is the star anyway. I'm going to just sit for the vibes. Yeah, Tangent was the star. Curricula's been all over the place, making sure everyone's open-minded, making sure he's not letting people have limiting beliefs in this. He's not letting people have limiting beliefs that aren't held accountable if they're talking about it. And I love that. He's thinking bigger. Balliot Brand in here. Him and his brother, dude, they had a crazy, I'll dox him for a second, but I've been messaging with his brother, and they had a great weekend. They all watched the fights, hung out, they went around. They're both in the fitness challenge, so it's been so good. Got lots of stuff coming together. RH also said he is not waiting for the bottom. He said, I am not waiting for the bottom. I'm waiting for the code to be bugless. He said it. I don't care what anyone says. I heard it. I was there. He said it out of his mouth in front of many, 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 many people. He said, I'm not waiting for the bottom. Why would he? He could have just not brought it up. He could have just dodged it and said shit's not ready. But he made that point. And I think it's important to open your mind. When you start hearing a dialogue about something, try to get it from the source. Anyway, guys, DeFi proof, hottest hit of the summer, 1 minute and 9 seconds. This is Crypto in the Morning, every single day at 11 a.m. Eastern. Sam Stoltz in the background, done with makeup in about 5 minutes. We're coming back.
You already know what time it is.
Crypto in the morning.
Crypto in the morning.
Crypto in the morning.
Waiting on phone.
Crypto in the morning. a.m. and I'm already tuned in. Got me some hex and I'm making a stay. Got me some heads on, I'm making it rain. Pay me some maxi and that's just in case. Jim Redder sent me to show you the way. Crypt in the morning. 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 Crypt in the morning.
Yo, what's good, bro? It's been a beautiful morning so far. It sounds like you guys had a busy evening in the crypto spaces on Twitter and on the stream last night.
I like your shirt.
Getting all wild.
I like this. Looks good with a little cut on it.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. I went through this morning and I looked a little bit more into like the Three Arrows Capital and oh my goodness.
You looked a little more into it. Oh boy, what's going on? I don't even want to know.
We're just witnessing the mass scale deleveraging in the space, and it's interesting to watch play out in real time. We had something similar happen in 1998 with a large hedge fund, long-term capital management. In 1998 was a giant hedge fund. It had Martin Scholes and Robert Merton, I think it is, who were two people who actually have like fundamental, they've won Nobel Prize. They were both working at this hedge fund, and it was extremely leveraged using debt. When you think of leverage, just think of debt and derivative plays. So the fund was like this big, but the exposure to the actual marketplace was much bigger because of the debt, right? So if I have $1 million and I borrow 750 against that $1 million, now I have 1.75 million, right? Then I could take that and I could create a derivatives play that gives me exposure to 5 million. So my 1 million could actually have, a $6 million exposure in the marketplace. And that's what a lot of hedge funds and whatnots do to try to amplify the returns. So you think of like Three Arrow Capital that had their fingers in a lot of different lending protocols, and all of these lending protocols, like plus other protocols like CoinFlex and Celsius and BlockFi and Voyager, Void or something else just this morning came out, said they're halting withdrawals. All of these different platforms are going through a deleveraging or de-risking period of time. And this is a super interesting time to watch this play out. I'm super thankful that I'm here, like watching all this play out. So we get to see this because this type of thing is going to happen again.
I just want to stay alive. Like literally,
People
think that's so
easy.
I know, but people think that's such a stupid thought. Like it's not even worth. Like like everyone obviously wants to stay alive, but like I'm so excited for the future. Like I don't really care what happens in the next year. Like I could just it could just go by as long as I'm learning, as long as I have as long as I can work, of course. But
I'm excited to talk to Tangent. I haven't talked to that fucker in a while.
Yeah, dude, me too, dude. I was taught. It's funny because I was like Tangent. I'm having dopamine. I was like Tangent. I'm having dopamine. And he was like, dude, me too. And I was like, fuck yeah. So I was like, we're vibing. I was listening, not talking last night. I wanted to listen, right? Like I wanted to listen. I wanted to see what both sides, right? I'm critically thinking. I wanted to pay attention. I didn't want to have a side. And that's exactly what I did. And I thought the conversation went well. Of course, there's some nuanced stuff that I want to bring up about the S curve that Sam also wants to bring up that I kind of want to, the adoption curve. So we're going to bring Tangent on. Luckily, it's a good time for him. This is like his normal hour pretty much, I'm assuming. So this is great. We're going to have good mental Tangent. And Orca might be coming on. Orca, if you want to come on, of course, he was the host of the space last night. He's bringing a lot of us together, but he's been up for fucking 7 days straight. So if he does not come on, there is zero worries there, guys. Heck.
My friend.
Were you serious about Orca being up for 7 days? I thought you just meant last night.
No, I know, but he's always up all day long.
Yeah, he never sleeps. He never sleeps.
No, he don't
Sam,
sleep.
how are you? Jim Rat,
Yo.
how are you? I'm literally on a high. I'm buzzing.
You should.
Yes,
You should.
talk to
You
me
should.
because I missed out on this thing that is happening right now. Right, there's a moment in time, right, which took place last night, and there was several different things that happened, and we're going to be discussing some of those things. I missed out on all of that shit. I was working, I was doing my thing, and I missed out on all that stuff. Sometimes I put my phone away purposely because otherwise
were
I get
sleeping.
distracted. Oh, if it was after 10 o'clock.
Dude,
yeah.
This was 1 a.m, bro.
I was definitely sleeping.
Dude, everyone in the East Coast was sleeping. I happened to be up because of that stream. I'm telling you. You know me. I'm not up at that hour unless I have to do radioactive 5-hour live streams in the middle of the night with Access Live. Absolutely mind-blowing stuff. But I'm going to summarize a couple of things for Sam just so he can start getting this conversation flowing with Tangent, and we'll get a dialogue moving back and forth. Basically, Tangent has always had strong points about Bitcoin. I get worried sometimes that when somebody makes a lot of money from a coin, it somehow F's their brain up. And I'm not saying this about Tangent, everyone. I'm like curious about myself as well in some instances. Like, does it do something to you psychologically where you have a hard time seeing the true from the false because of that large amount of money, because of that impact it had on your life? Is it impossible not to extrapolate that in your beliefs, in the way you feel? Because for other people, that reality is not true. For real. Like, it doesn't matter what you say. Like, in their world, that is not true. And even if it is true, like, you know what I mean? So if Bitcoin's not true in the world of everyone in this country, like, it's not true over there. You know what I mean? In a way, if no one uses it, right?
No,
so,
you're right.
So I wanted to know, like, what is the fundamental thing, Tangent, when you're talking about Bitcoin? We're going to, obviously, price appreciation is the thing, but we're going to move that aside for a second. Okay. What is the thing about Bitcoin that you like the most for the people in here that don't have as much of a nuanced understanding? And the thing that you kind of wanted to get across to the people in that chat and RH while you were talking to them?
Yeah, man. I have always said, and I even said it at least twice in that debate with Richard, that if you want mad gains, I've always said it's Hex and Richard Hart projects. I've never disputed that. I've never said anything but that. However,
I think that's really important to decipher, guys. So if you're watching that, he is talking at a technical background. He owns Hex. He believes the price will move up faster with a probably better yield. But there's differences between the two products.
Yeah, my criticisms or my attempt to clarify these items with Richard about Bitcoin is more to do with I think people are too hasty to disregard or sweep to the side something like Bitcoin as old tech under these false narratives without actually understanding deeply what the technology is, what's at stake, and what is the requirement to be able to just discard an existing tech. So the thing that there are aspects of cryptocurrencies that are absolutely critical for the future of humanity. And my appeal to people is, don't be so quick to just immediately assume that because someone has got a narrative that sounds good, that you just immediately buy into that shit and disregard these. So Bitcoin proved itself. Bitcoin proved itself to be censorship resistant. We've seen examples of it, right?
Yep.
And other cryptocurrencies that are newer have not stood up a test of time, right? As far as Bitcoin. So Bitcoin's got the longest standing record of actually being censorship resistant, in my opinion.
Right. And
obviously then there's it breaks down into these nuanced discussions. Like some of Richard's points were things like, that it's had bugs in the past and things like that. So the discussion gets complex quickly. But the thing that I'm trying to encourage people to not do is to immediately make these dangerous assumptions like, we don't need Bitcoin anymore. It's old tech. Fuck, we've got this other stuff that's better now. You don't know that for sure.
It might be true that Richard wants to create that narrative.
Yes, yeah. I mean, he admitted
he wants to be in a subtle way. This is totally conjecture, literally. I just am thinking on my feet in a subtle way. Like, doesn't Mac wish Dell would die? For
Yes,
just because
yes.
it would be better, or
And
like
Yeah, Bitcoin.
You said
Bitcoin
the
is-
same. He,
Bitcoin is
GRC
competition.
GRC said
Hex.
the same. Exactly correct. GRC said this a minute ago. He was like, when you make all this money in something, right? Who owns the most of Hex? Are you going to talk shit about your own thing?
but he was a Bitcoin
maxi
maxi with the big fat Bitcoin bags at sometimes, and he did prove that he could change, because he could have just stayed with Bitcoin. He'd still been richer than all of us.
No, correct.
Yeah,
but if I have all this income coming in from one source, and that is the biggest portion of my wealth.
But I'd fair to say his income probably doesn't, like, I would just assume, like, after being in Bitcoin and mining it and talking about it relentlessly for years and years and years and years and years, like, the amount of income that he's kind of talking about is, it seems like, is in a bit of a different, like, it's not like he needs direct income from Hex. Obviously, if it works out, like, he's going to be the richest.
Correct.
Maybe he wants to be the richest human that ever lived. That's probably what he wants. Which is a cool goal. It's not a bad goal. I'm not hating on the goal.
Aside from any financial incentives that you can point to, whether or not that is impactful for him or anything like that, it's logically consistent that he will be biased towards his own product from a reputational standpoint and from a financial standpoint. Like, it's the incentives do exist there on both of those, financial and reputational. That is just fact, right? So he admitted in the debate that he is biased towards Hex, which I don't believe I am, because my bags are of the same order of magnitude in terms of Hex and Bitcoin. So really it comes down to, so what was the question again?
Well, give us the context of the argument for what
the context
Okay. So the context was simply that there were several things that that Richard has said about Bitcoin in the past that I didn't agree with, and that I thought were detrimental to the crypto space broadly, because they damaged Bitcoin unnecessarily. And that because he has so much influence over the thought, he's a thought leader, particularly within the Hex community. It concerned me that if he was breeding a culture of negativity towards Bitcoin that was unjustified, critically. So I don't mind him making comments that are accurate and honest and justified. If they're criticisms of Bitcoin, but they're legit, that's fine. Where I started to have a problem was I was starting to hear certain comments that I didn't agree with. I thought they were unjustified and unnecessarily fuddy, like FUD, fear, uncertainty, doubt. And so I just wanted to clarify those items and find out whether he could convince me that of why he's saying that, and convince me that it is justified, or perhaps him change his opinion. By the way, spoiler alert, he did not change his opinion on a single thing. Or whether we would just agree to disagree.
So quick, I got two things right here. What were the things that you necessarily disagreed on? And and then I'll ask you the next question about, you're potentially changing beliefs if that changed or happened at all. But what were the couple things that you didn't necessarily agree with, or kind of like, you were like, don't.
And before you jump into that, guys, real quick, posting the link down below.
Oh yeah, I'll show it.
We have 82 in here. People are popping, they're buzzing, guys. It's our job to make crypto popping. I'm telling you, it's our job, right? So take the advantage of. You fucking Tangent got on with fucking RH yesterday. Let's talk about it. Let's get on here. I want to make this cool and educational at the same time, and kind of merge the two things, because I think last night that was cool. Like that was cool to me. Yeah,
and I guess this is sort of like a hot topic at the moment, so we might as well leverage off it to bring the discussion to the channel.
But on a slight tangent, no pun intended, tangent, but we're talking about marketing, right? And he's talking about, RH is talking about marketing. I think like literally, instead of wasting all this time and fucking money on dumb shit that like only a very small subset of people actually give a fuck about, is taking time every day and or every week to do live streams. You know how much more that's going to help your brand than like going out and spending $10,000 or $20,000 on outfits and taking pictures and telling people how much it costs, right? Like go online and talk to fucking people like with this spaces. That's going to help so much more you build your brand and the projects that you're like building, which can be so much more helpful than fucking doing silly shit. Like you're just building, because how do you grow relationships? How do you do that? Talking to fucking people, not by showing them, hey, I got this cool fucking thing. Who gives a fuck, right? Just go out and talk to more people. Do more live streams. Do more spaces.
GRC will be responsible. He says, we will be responsible for Hex's next all-time high. And it's true. We all will. Like, it's true. Like, it sounds stupid. It sounds stupid about Bitcoin too, but the Bitcoin hype train was a crazy thing. You know, like the Bitcoin hype train, like I heard about Bitcoin when I was 20, which was 8 years ago. And I even downloaded a Coinbase of sorts back then. I didn't do anything with it, but like I remember seeing like all the tickers, Litecoin. It was only Litecoin, Ethereum, and Bitcoin back then. There was really nothing else on the major like whatever site I was using. So I think we are all responsible for the good pushing the good products and making crypto cool and helping as many people transition. They're going to transition anyway. So why don't we have them transition to good people with good intentions, with a decent product market fit, you know what I mean? Rather than just putting them in Celsius to literally lose everything they have. Literally, you lose it all. And you cannot move it anymore. And even the companies that Michael Saylor, they're fucking doing all this shit. All those big companies are all tied up in this thing. They're all fucked. Sorry about total tangent on there. No tangent.
Yeah. So I was pretty sure I could remember it all off the top of my head, but I just brought my script up just in case. So just very quickly, the main points were I wanted to discuss proof of work versus proof of stake. Most Bitcoin maxis still believe that proof of work is necessary and that proof of stake has not been proven to be a censorship resistant true consensus algorithm that is appropriate for blockchain and for sound money.
Consensus.
So there was that. I wanted to discuss that with him. Then as a subset of that, the Bitcoin energy FUD, because part of that relies on whether you believe proof of work is necessary or not, then that is sort of integral or foundational to the energy FUD debate. So I think there's a lot of Bitcoin energy FUD that I think is literally just baseless FUD. So I wanted to talk to him about that. Then there was the one that you and I have discussed before, Sam, which is like this whole idea of the adoption S curve and where we are on that curve. I still maintain that opinion that he has about where we are on the adoption curve is ludicrous. But
me too. I agree with you. Okay. We'll get into that in a second. We'll get into it, but I want to hear all the points, and then we'll.
You're right.
Then there was the lack of bug bounty on the Bitcoin network. That kind of like, he did better on that. Like, so there were several points where I think I did better than I expected myself to do, but he also did better than I expected him to do.
He did really.
So bug bounty.
He did great on some things.
Then there's He actually impressed me because I brought over a month's worth of preparation, bringing my biggest criticisms and hardest hitting points, and he had no idea, or I assume he had no idea what those points were. Some of them had been never discussed before, like no one had ever attacked him or brought these discussion points up, and on the fly he did. I wouldn't say he crushed every point, because sometimes he did just derail the conversation onto subtly different shit. But in general, he did an amazing job. Like he really, really did a good job. So then finishing off this list, centralized in terms of Bitcoin centralization. So miner centralization, pool centralization, hardware centralization, manufacturer centralization, all those subtopics. We didn't really get into that and at the depth I would have liked to, but I wanted to keep things moving along because it was a Twitter space and people were starting to get a bit impatient, especially towards the mid.
I was going to freak out if anyone stopped that conversation. I was like, I had my finger on the trigger ready to tell someone to shut the frick up. And I was tired because I was like in a state of like euphoria listening to, because they were talking about the security too. And I'm going to let him go. But they were talking about the security too. These are things that I didn't understand. and he kept talking about the bug bounty program and the Bitcoin inflation bugs. And he really did make some points. He was like, he told everyone he feels less comfortable with his money in Bitcoin than Ethereum, period.
Who? Richard. Oh, I don't remember him saying that, but I was more focusing on my side.
He said 100 times, he said Bitcoin had 2 inflation bugs. Ethereum had no inflation bugs. There's a bug bounty program in Ethereum. Now, I don't know what the fuck that means, but
no. Is there? Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe. So, and then developer centralization is actually one that is on my list, but I didn't actually get a chance to bring that up. So basically, and then there's also, so that's still to do with the adoption S curve, blah, blah, blah. And then I pivoted into, there's sort of like this idea of network effect as well that I wanted to discuss with him, like Lindy effect, network effect, and first mover advantage. Then this idea of the immaculate conception in terms of Bitcoin being created when the founder didn't have this high level degree confidence that it was going to make them rich. He, she, they, them rich. And I'm not doing pronoun woke shit here. I'm just saying we don't know who Satoshi is my point here. Then I pivoted from there into basically my highest level criticism of Hex and my highest level criticism of Pulse Chain, which I think he handled reasonably well. And then that's a bit, and then I just concluded. Like, so
what was the there's a lot of cool things to talk about, but the bug bounty program I think is interesting, because I think the RH point is probably that they don't have one, and he believes it to be a good thing. But if you pay attention to, the large company in the world, or one of the largest companies in the world, they go by Apple, right? You may have heard of them before. They actually did not have a bounty program. So what is a fucking bounty program? Well,
so the bug bounty program discussion is one where I actually agree that Richard crushed that topic. I concede the win to him on that topic, whereas there were other ones where the Hex community just gave him the win, even though I don't believe he adequately addressed my concerns.
But Apple didn't have one up until 2016, right? They had their phone out for a long effing time.
But aren't they centralized? Like, they can do whatever they want?
Correct. But every other software company, what Tangent's about to say, or what probably RT is saying, is you create this program, you create incentives for people to break your shit. Right. Effectively, that's what you're doing. Hey, Tangent, if you can fuck up my shit, I'll pay you to fuck up my shit. Right. And then you just
as in you bring it to me first, disclose the bug responsibly to me, and you will be rewarded financially so that it doesn't wreck our shit, is the idea.
And Apple didn't have that until after 2016, when they've been around for a long effing time making software. Right.
So I
think it's a good thing. I do think it's a good thing, but I think it's just so early. Like, it's just so early. Like, Bitcoin that could be created in that community. It wasn't in Apple. Apple was a giant company in 2016. Now it is there. I think it could be created with Bitcoin. I do think it's a good thing. It's just an interesting point there, because people don't realize this takes place in.
He always brings up the fact that nobody does anything with Bitcoin. Like, there's no one there. Like, he always brings up in Tangent. You can be, if you're going to answer this question, try to be specific.
That's not.
No, but I want to know the truth, because it's the biggest cryptocurrency in the world. So I don't care if they have 10 employees. That's still retarded. That's not good.
No.
I'm not saying employees, but I'm just saying in general. He says there's no one there doing anything. He mentions the Lightning Network. You mentioned the Lightning Network. He does not like it. He does not like. He made that straight up clear that he thinks the Lightning Network is not. So I get confused, to be honest.
It depends what you mean by as in, if you're talking about devs that actually contribute to the core code, or whether you're talking about the vibrant ecosystem that is all the things that are happening. Because Bitcoin is more than just the code that the developers write. Bitcoin is like the ecosystem and everyone that's involved in all of the shit that is involved, like that is a part of that ecosystem, that is things that are built on Bitcoin, businesses that are built around Bitcoin. That's all part of the ecosystem, in my opinion. So when people say nothing's going on with Bitcoin, they're just not looking, or they're not following what's going on. They're that's a bury your head in the sand. Like if you watched the Bitcoin 2022 Miami conference, you'll see there's like heaps of shit going on. It's ridiculous. Like there's heaps going on. So that's not true. But just quickly on the bug bounty thing, right? The difference between the bug bounty in a software company like Apple is there's no economic energy being stored in Apple phones or in the iOS, right? So there's no direct financial incentive for people to hack that shit. It's indirect shit, right? Like that fappening where all the celebrity nudes and shit got leaked, that someone hacked that shit to do. That was an iOS hack, I think.
But
So,
you can get like, right, if I get access to your shit, I can use that to steal shit from you,
Yeah,
or
like,
to
so
manipulate people to.
There's other incentives, non-financial and maybe indirect financial. But with Bitcoin, there's actually a direct financial incentive to hack the network because you can actually extract the value. But Richard made an epic counter, which doesn't completely negate the point, but I'll concede the win. He said that if you're relying on that to be the bug bounty program, then when it occurs, your network is dead. But critically, even though, yes, that's a dumb way to do your bug bounty program, that incentive has been there for a really long time, and no one has found a bug that has allowed them to extract value out of the network.
I agree.
So
For sure.
You know, but I think from a purely debate standpoint, he crushed that fucking argument because that's not really adequate.
He also mentions a lot that he has these conversations with people every single day. Like he mentions, like I've had talks with people. And it's important to remember this when you're talking to anyone, really. Like he mentions, like he doesn't have to look any of this stuff up. He doesn't have to ask anyone. He doesn't have to, he's had very intimate, long conversations about the game theory of community, marketing, all of this stuff for hours and hours and hours. So I get lost in the fact that there's so much nuance there that it's like, I don't even like, even if I didn't know, you're basically just picking a side and saying who you want to win because you don't know enough to know. You have to pick at some point, right, Sam? Like, unless you know everything, right? Like, unless you're like a pro of sorts, like we have to pick, right? Like I'm hedging my bets on Richard to make a better project than Mr. Charles Hoskinson. I just am. And that might not be the truth. I don't care what anyone says. You can make jokes, you can make memes, short guy memes about ADA all you want, but it survived a 99% dump and hit all-time highs. And it's crazy. And crypto is crazy. And Richard also alluded to that. He said the things that happen in crypto are stupid. They're dumb. He mentioned that he doesn't, if this was the way he wanted it to be, it would not be like this, but he's playing the game that's presented in front of him.
I agree with you that he has either thought deeply about these items or had discussions with other people so that he's thought this through. But I do believe that as a part of that, he has refined his best counter to some of these items. And in my opinion, some of these things are not airtight counters. So I mean, I'm happy for everyone to silently and honestly, rhetorically assess what was discussed in that debate and decide of all the points that I raised, which ones were adequately addressed by Richard. And
I've noticed that in other debates where it's just kind of like very surface level when it doesn't actually take care of the question, right? It's like,
yeah, but
it's around it.
Sometimes you can't answer why Dogecoin went up 68,000%. Sometimes there's not a good answer. It's like you could sit there and badger me about it all day long, but if I made $1 billion off of Dogecoin, it doesn't like. Sometimes I don't. Maybe he doesn't know exactly everything. No one can know everything, and the one thing he does is kind of does frame it as if he does know everything.
Orca made a really good point on the stream that I just had with him on my channel. That sometimes with this whole idea of imaginary horribles, we'll only find out with time. So when you brush a lot of shit off as imaginary horribles, then we won't know who's right until later. So you really you can't win logically in a debate at the time. You just can't. So he can't win the point. I can't win the point. We're just discussing the potential of some of these things that could happen, and people have to incorporate that into their risk assessment. You can't be like, this is definitely a problem or this is definitely not a problem. So
what about the S curve, right? Because I've talked about it many times with GRC on my own channel. You and I have had this discussion. We're at that point where we're just starting to get to the part of the curve.
We're literally at that point before it's about to go vertical, sort of thing, in my opinion.
I agree.
Unfortunately, I had this is something that I actually had slides for that I had taken from the Bitcoin Miami conference with actual statistics on adoption and all of that sort of stuff. But because we were in a Twitter Spaces, there's no visual.
Do you have those now, by any chance?
Yeah, I can screen share them up.
Cool. I'm looking at. I'll pull up one where you pull up those slides. This is the number of wallets.
While you guys are pulling that up, just once you pull it up, just start talking about it. I'm going to drop the link one more time, guys. We have 115 in here. This is the hottest day we've had in a while.
Yeah, I double shielded it.
Happy 4th of July, everyone.
Oh shit.
God bless America, all that jazz.
And Australians.
They're locked in their country, poor guys. And but we love them. They're very open-minded down there. So guys, please share this out. I'm going to take it under my wing, and I say this every Monday, literally every Monday. I don't think I've ever not said this. I'm going to double down. I just say that to motivate myself. I just always do. When Monday comes around, I get extra excited so I can push again and again. Every week I get another opportunity to make this show better, to have better communication, and I fail every single week, but I do better every single week. And I'm really excited about hanging out with these guys. I'm really excited about building these relationships, the next bull market. If biceps in the chat, do you think Bitcoin, now I'm going to put a poll up. If you think Bitcoin will break 200K in the next market cycle, go ahead and answer that. And I'm going to let these guys get back at it, and I'm going to use the bathroom. Thank you so much for being here, team.
Can you share my screen? Can you share my screen before you go?
Yes, sir.
Cool. So this is one of the charts that. So this is the S curve one, right? So it's looking at basically like 0%. And what was Richard's counter to this was like, oh, I don't care about like wallet
price.
No. He said I don't care about like number of wallets or wallet addresses or unique wallet addresses or something like that. But this is data.
But his whole point was that like where are you in the adoption curve if the next cycle is only going to do a 3x? So that's a question to Sam real quick. So
well, I mean, if Bitcoin comes down to 11K and if it does get to 200K, what do you have at 20x or 18x?
Well, that's for the bottom. Yeah, that's for the bottom. I was just looking at the So you're right. It's definitely going to be major gains.
But 18x is still 18x.
No, it's major gains. It's major
gains. Guys, constantly bringing these arguments back to price is not it's not an acceptable way to win arguments for me.
But it's reality.
But only if the
reality hurts sometimes. It's not an intellectual conversation.
No, it's not that. It's just that that's not the only thing that matters. And so it's pretty. You can point to it. You can point to the chart and be like, I made more money with this coin, but that only matters if the only thing you care about is money, like is making money. And I said at the start of this stream and in the debate and previously on my own streams, if that's all you care about, that's fine. Buy Hex. But there are other things that I personally care about that are to do with making the world a better place and actually giving people financial freedom that are things that need to be discussed. And so this adoption curve is not just about how many X's will your bag do in the next bull market. That's not what this is about. This is about the adoption of a technology that is going to free humanity from the corruption and shitfuckery that goes on in the world. So
that's interesting.
I mean,
it's interesting because I never think about it like that, but you're right. It's that everything you said is right. I always think about it as this is all going to be centralized garbage. Save yourself because they're going to take over. Like that is how GRC in his head, when I spin it up, it's like, get your positions. They're going to take over. They can bend the legislation to do whatever they want. Blockchain technology is not complicated. They're going to take it over. And that's it. But they just don't have the bodies over here yet. It's still too taboo. But in my opinion, to have a fully. I hope the future is fully censorship resistant. That would be sick. But with the shit that I've seen, they'll break your door down. They'll fucking tell you to stay in your country, Tangent, and never fucking leave. And you'll listen.
Go ahead.
So it's crazy.
I would be sad as fuck if I genuinely had that belief. I believe that there is hope that this technology will be a major tool for freedom. Like, I genuinely believe that.
I agree.
So if, like, I don't want to be rude,
I hope
but
that's true.
if that's actually your genuine attitude, I would be like, what the fuck are you even doing here? Like, why are you in crypto? Like,
I don't know.
I guess people could still be in crypto to try and make speculative gains.
I'm just new to crypto. I'm not under the. I understand how early we are, and I don't pretend to be the person that could extrapolate the phone to the cell phone today. I'm not.
No,
I'm
talking. I mean, I'm talking like I don't. I know how fast things move and how unextrapolatable it is, and how many factors there are. So, like when Richard starts talking about these negative externalities, and it starts to seem to me like maybe, and again, this is just a maybe. I'm learning all this shit. I'm not a fucking freedom fighter. I want people to be happy and have to be able to spend time with their families. That's it. I want people to be able to have money so that they can buy their freedom back. That's what this is about. It's about having money. Tangent. You have money. What fucking person has money in this world? Nobody.
But so that's part of it. The financial freedom in terms of the having enough money to not be a slave is certainly part of it, but I don't think it's the only.
How is it part of it when 99% of people don't have enough money to do shit?
No, in terms of the goal, thing. Like in terms of the aim, like in terms of the potential positives that can come out of this. So,
and I'm new for everyone in the chat. Like Tangent has been around this block 150 more times than me, and I am just talking purely out of my brain speculation, and you know.
So the mission statement of this technology is to combat those exact threat vectors that you just listed as being the ones that that you believe are going to be the way that they are going to co-opt this shit or take it over or cause a problem or shut it down. The whole kicking doors in, the whole threats of violence, all of that shit is the exact thing that this technology is trying to combat or attempting to, I believe, successfully so far. Like, it is doing a great job of going down that path. So I hope that I can convince you to have some hope that this is not just about making people rich. That this is about finding using a technology to combat the worst corruption and power battles and all of that nonsense, all of that legacy shit.
I just see so many zombies out there, bro. Like all this freedom fighting shit when no one knows what's going on. No one knows what's going on. No one.
They don't need to. They don't need to, bro. They don't
need to, but they're all happy.
They don't need to.
They're all fat and happy.
No, they don't need to
maybe
yet.
After depression, they won't be. But.
So they don't need to yet. All we need to do is keep working on the technology so it's there when they are ready. So as these mofos wake up to the corruption and the problems of this world, that we will be waiting with the technology that we can extend to them and say, here, this is the escape hatch. This is the way that you regain your financial sovereignty. Here it is. So not everyone is going to be ready at the same time, but when they're ready, we will be ready. That's the point.
I want to go to Sam for a second, we were having a back and forth there for a minute, and this is really good conversation. And guys, I'm a very positive person. You know, I'm one of those guys that's like, if everything's centralized in my life's still lit. I'll do whatever the fuck I want. And that's the case in my life today. So I've made my life the way I want it to be. I don't have any issues with that. But you know what I mean? In general, I just feel like the lack of insight for people makes it so they can outmarket us. Like, and this is my opinion, they can outmarket you. They will outmarket you, and they can do it without trying. Go to any bodybuilding front end in the top 10 fucking bodybuilders in the world for a website that they're selling supplements on for protein powder, for examples. The greatest websites you'll ever see, they could sign you up for their whole Premier program with one click. You'll go all the way through it. They'll get a credit card for you mailed out to your house in the second click. and I can't even return the shit at my house. Like, they rig the game. They make the game. You know, they make the narrative. No customer service is normal now, and the people have accepted it. Like, they have not fought back. They have said, I don't care. And it's only guys like us. And I guess you're right for the whole thing. Like, as this whole technology moves, it's just the future for me as I'm just learning. And I want to go to Sam real quick. Like, it's been an honor to learn with you guys, honestly.
No, same. I think I'm just here listening to you guys' points of view. It's interesting. I think you're talking about the same thing in the one hand, where GRC is maybe highlighting some things that are potentially concern of his, but I don't think that they have, to Tanger's point, I don't think they have like a chance of the Pandora's box has been opened, right? And there's no like putting the genie back in that is crypto, that is blockchain. The decentralized ledger, like what I think Tangent was talking about, has the capacity to, yes, make stupid financial gains, right? Yes, to give people their freedom of money back, but there's a broader application of what this technology is capable of. And what you were mentioning with, centralized organizations controlling the narrative, or governments coming in and doing, stupid, ridiculous fucking garbage shit, right? This technology underlying this can be applied in different spaces. If you think about what has taken place on this, right, the cell phone over the last, since basically Apple came out, right, 2007, right, so 15 years. The capacity of this, what this has been able to influence, wasn't just making phone calls, right? Because that was the idea, right? We're going to take a music player, we're going to take a pager, we're going to take a telephone, we're going to put it together in this beautiful package, right? And the idea that you can run multi-million-dollar businesses off of this without ever needing a computer is where we're at today, only 15 years later. And blockchain, as a technology layer, which is just the distributed ledger, right? So you can see things out in the open, is being applied to things at Amazon with supply chain. Is being applied all to banks. It's being applied to all these different segments of the world, which can help set more people free, not just the financial sense, but like reduce that middleman, fee, that vig that those people take for facilitating transactions. There's so many instances where this technology can be applied to reduce that and increase transparency, increase like so many different things. Yes, I do think that the financial thing is a big burden for a lot of people, but I also see that everybody's in a different spot in their journey, right? And where, it appears Tangent sitting, he's taking a look at things he's like, hey, well, the financial piece of things, yes, I obviously want more. Yes, I want to make more progress. But I understand that this can be utilized to impact other people in a lot of different ways, in a very positive manner. Yes, the financial thing is there. And that is the number one thing for a lot of fucking people, right? But there's also so many other ways that this can be applied. You were talking about that S-curve, and then we kind of talked about several different things. Did you want to talk about that or explain that S-curve in more detail that you had the slide you were sharing?
Well, just all I wanted to say was that basically I stole these slides, or just like appropriated or whatever. Like I screenshotted these slides off the Bitcoin conference that show what you and I, Sam, suspect and believe to be true. That if you look at percentage of US households, and let's be honest, like USA has like quite a majority in Bitcoin. But even if you just said, look, this is just a sample survey, it's just data. This reckons, I think this is a little bit generous, but this is saying 25% of US households. I mean, that's probably fair because globally it'll be less than that, right? Like US is ahead of the curve. So this is looking at adoption for the United States, which should be ahead of the curve. And it's got Bitcoin adoption at 25%, right? And it shows this S curve from 0% in 2009 to 90% in what they're predicting, like possibly 2029, right? And so, but remembering that because this is USA, it's high. I think global adoption rates for Bitcoin are definitely less than 5%. I thought the last time I heard it was like around 2 or something like that, but it's starting to accelerate. It's starting to go parabolic. So me saying the last time I heard it, it was around 2. If that was a year ago, now it's probably 4, right? Like global adoption rate. But that's still tiny compared to like, look at this S curve. Like, even if it is as high as 25%, and I think that's absolute max, it's still,
and that's only one market.
It's still on the part of the curve that it's literally, we've still got the steepest part to go. So, and then if we show these charts here, there's basically Bitcoin wallet addresses going parabolic, and total Bitcoins over time. What's this? Bitcoin.
Supply.
Oh, this is, oh yeah. So this is the supply. This is basically the distribution schedule and how it is like ramping down over time, like because of those halvenings. So these should be straight lines between the halvenings, and each dot is at a halving, and then the distribution rate in block rewards is halved over the next period. So where are we at the moment? We're like 2022. So we're like here. Yeah. So we're on this part, which is like very flat, and then it only gets flatter and flatter and flatter. So in terms of until it hits the max. So I just don't know where Richard's getting, like Richard. You know what? I should have asked him. I should have been like, bro, where's your data? I've got data to back up that we're early. Tell me your data that makes you think we're late. Because his data is Elon Musk already bought some. That's his data point.
Correct.
What the shit, man? That's like anecdotal at best. What the fuck? Like this is probably
who normally buys shit in advance of other people. The rich people.
And also, yes, that's a good point. And also, Elon Musk is tech savvy. So of all the rich people, even though he is the richest person on the books, there'd be like cartel gangsters and shit that are richer. But like he, in terms of on paper rich, and BRW rich list, they started cutting off like sheiks and like people in UAE.
Yeah, that always
and
made the list annoying anyway.
But so even that, when he says the richest guy already bought in, I should have actually said to him, bro, in reality, that's actually not the richest guy in the world. In reality, he's not. It's only by that one list, which is restricted. 2, he didn't go all in. So he actually has even more economic energy just within that one person that could still come in. 3, that dude was more tech savvy than your average fucking rich person. And 4, even if all of those other things were not true, there's still rich person number 2 through to everyone else in the world that can still buy. So it's just like, dude, your argument is so wrecked and so not accurate. Like, this is probably the one that I disagree with him the most on, of all the shit that he says about Bitcoin that's incorrect. This one, I think, is the most ridiculous of all his arguments. But he wouldn't even concede that point to me. He wouldn't admit that I'm right about that. I am right.
We'll get more clarity from him on that when he comes on Crypto in the Morning and we do the official with the mediation, with a very calm mediation. Richard, if you're watching this, clip this out. Richard, if you're watching this, we would love if you came on the show and we talked about Bitcoin. GRC really learn about Bitcoin, and if you teach me, that could be good for the world because I want to learn about Bitcoin. And
bro, some people think it's miraculous that we even got this debate to happen at all. So the idea of having a second round or that is probably hopeful.
No,
I'm down if he is.
Miraculous is when I replace Joe Rogan on the UFC main card lineup once he retires.
I agree with the S curve. You know, it doesn't matter if the person that you believe is the richest person first, is it really the richest person or just some arbitrary risk that is not actually representative of reality, right? But if you just look at the data, just look at the data.
Yeah, just look at the data, man.
We're here. We're going to be here in the future. Then we're going to be here. Then we're going to be here. Then we're going to be here. It doesn't matter if you like it or not. More people are going to fucking buy that shit.
Yeah,
it's just
going to be,
you know. I don't see that as being, super valid, but it makes sense. I would rather have you buy my shit than buy that thing. So it 100% makes sense on that. You had mentioned, you guys also talked about proof of work and proof of stake, right? There's some arguments that proof of work is better, right? There's some arguments that proof of work is better because there's a fixed outlay and a variable cost to running that, right? Versus proof of stake that doesn't have those things. So I've heard an argument that's showing where they believed that could actually be a benefit to the security of the system. Can you talk about that, your point of view on this, or just the take around proof of work versus proof of stake?
So I mean, I mentioned to Richard that there was a Stanford University study done that the findings were that the only way that you can get proof of stake to work, there's only two ways: to use checkpointing or to anchor it to proof of work. So the second one just admits that proof of work is the requirement for having solid a solid foundation to a blockchain. So that one is, we don't even need to talk about it because that one just admits that proof of work is the only thing that works. And the first one is it's central. It requires centralization because who decides the checkpointing and that sort of thing. And Richard's response was, yeah, that's fine. We'll just use checkpointing. But I'm like, but bro, that's centralization. And then
I need to know what that means. I need to know what this means.
What is centralization?
Yeah,
or what is the checkpointing?
Like you said checkpointing. You said checkpointing, and I lost.
So because with proof of stake, you can have these. So because there's no cost or risk for stakers, they can commit to an infinite number of potential chains. So because you don't like. They've got these things called long range attacks where you can actually go back really, really, really far and use the stakes of people who don't even have. So if you go far enough back into the history of the blockchain, there will be people that at the time were staked who are not staked anymore, right? So this is just one example of an attack that can occur. And so you can use that person's signatures, if you will, if you want to think about it like that, for that period of time, but that person doesn't have a currently active stake. So they're not at any financial risk of handing over their signatures at the time. So then you can kind of reconstruct these blockchain, reconstruct the entire blockchain from really, really, really far back with stake that is no longer at risk. So one way to stop that from happening is you bring in checkpointing so that you can't do these super long range attacks. You can't go back really far into the blockchain and reconstruct the chain from a really early point, because anything that's further back in history past the checkpoint will just immediately not be seen as valid among the nodes.
So if somebody's playing a video game, right, they have these things called checkpoints. And as you go through your little level, right, then you get to a checkpoint and it's like saving data, right? And at that, it sounds like there is this kind of philosophy applied to crypto where to mitigate the risk of what you're describing is you have a checkpoint that is almost like a screenshot or whatever the F it is, saving point. And when you get killed further into that level, right, or somebody tries to do this attack, it comes back to this wall here, which is the checkpoint. Is that kind of like?
I don't know if that analogy is completely directly applicable, but some aspects of it can be salvaged in the sense that you can think of it like a save point in a game, in the sense that you're checkpointing the history of the blockchain from that point back, and basically saying that shit is now set in stone, that is now considered by all the nodes to be not changeable. Anything that is not consistent with everything from there back. So it's so there's some aspects of your analogy
Can I ask you a question about proof of stake versus proof of work? This is for myself. I just view proof of stake as centralized proof of work, in the sense that you're still fucking mining. It's just now you call them validators, and there's X number of validators, whether you have to have 32 ETH or you're going to have 33 validators on Pulse-Chain. It's just mining. It's just centralized now. So can you distinguish the differences between those?
But you don't have an ongoing cost. Like, as in, once you've bought the coins to stake, then that's it. You don't have any kind of ongoing cost.
But you don't have cost if I buy Bitcoin. I don't have any ongoing cost, because I'm still trying to grasp that.
But you can't stake Bitcoin. You've got to mine it. Like, so the problem with, so when the penalty cost is external to the network, it doesn't matter what is going on in the network. It doesn't matter whether there are whales that have big bags. It doesn't matter whether the price is going up or down. The cost of security is external to the network. It's a cost you pay in energy. So that cost doesn't get that cost or penalty, or cost to attack the network and cost to secure the network is external to the network. And the reason why that's important is because with proof of stake, it's a whole rich get richer thing, that if the people with the biggest bags have the most control, so you end up having rich people within the network start to have a disproportionate amount of control. And also, independent of that, is that if the coin starts going down in price, like say the thing that you have staked is going down in price, like really, really heavily, then your incentive to not F around is also going down proportional to the price of the stake. So if the price of your stake goes really, really low, then you might as well just attack the network, because the shit that you've got staked is not actually that valuable. So you're not incentivized to not F around. Whereas if the payment that you're doing is in electricity, that cost doesn't fluctuate greatly on a global scale. So do you see the difference? So they are two separate points.
So there's you have the external cost of electricity, which you had made that doesn't actually affect the network, but I think it does affect the network, just not directly. It's more of an indirect effect on the network. If I had to say, if I was mining, right, and if I needed some of the profit from mining to pay the bill, then I have to sell that. So there is an effect on the network to some degree, not necessarily from a security standpoint, but there is some sort of effect on that, right?
So the cost to attack a proof of work network does not fluctuate with the price of the native asset, whereas on a proof of stake network, it does.
But it's just about the cost. So like the cost basis has to be correct, right? So they're only going to do something if it's profitable for a certain amount of time. And that isn't that the problem? Like one of the main problems. But I'm going to hold on.
All of those factors come into play.
The chat's going crazy for our boys. So, guys, we have Johnny Chaos. We have Access Alive. Cash, fetch him. You just give me a bicep in the chat if you want to come in. Can you learn? Yeah, he's in the green room. He's chilling. He's eating. Can you learn, Johnny? Can you learn me something?
Gotta learn you something. I want, before I say anything, I want to say I have much respect for Tangent. He is a young, passionate individual. I think I
agree.
I understand where he's coming from and how he's thinking, and I respect that he's one of those deep thinkers. The problem is most people aren't. Most people are not on Tangent's level. Most people will never be on Tangent's level. And unfortunately, Tangent projects a lot from his level, and he's not seeing what the average person sees because he's not thinking on an average person's level. And that's the other spectrum of the Dunning-Kruger effect, is when the smart people expect that you see everything the way that they do. And unfortunately, the sloths that are running around don't. And that's the problem. So like when we think about cryptocurrency and we talk about these things that are world changing and we're going to change the world and we're going to do this, those are great. And we need people to lead that charge and we need people to push that. But your average person is never going to get it. Cryptocurrency is not a need. We don't pay our bills in it. Okay. And this is an opportunity for those that understand what's going on. It's not an opportunity for everyone. It's most, even rich people, when we're talking about the rich people, well, there's plenty of rich people that are buy, but why? What if they have everything they need? They want another collectible? I mean, because that's really where it's gone with Bitcoin. Is it is a collectible that only certain people can afford and can afford to participate in. As where Hex being a bottom end sort of thing that everybody can participate is much more acceptable to the average person. So when you look at Bitcoin, there is always a market for people that want to brag about overpaying for stuff. Seriously. There will always be a market for that. People have Rolexes, people have Lamborghinis.
You just have to look at Richard Hart Twitter, right?
Yeah. People buy things.
He enjoys doing it.
And that is, well, he's actually, the whole troll there is he's really speaking to their language. He said on several occasions, I'm doing things that I don't want to do. He doesn't like to spend money. Believe it or not, he doesn't. He'll tell you, I'm cheap.
I find that difficult. I find that difficult to believe. But Johnny,
I believe the truth is somewhere in the middle. Like everyone takes that to one side or the other. Like he's doing marketing. He's doing it better than you, and he's doing like he's been doing this for a long time. So you guys, when people act like that he doesn't know what he's doing, it's kind of, you just got to let him go. Like just let him do his thing, and if the project fails, then we can all make fun of him.
I don't care what he does because the code is solid. I really don't care what he does.
He had fucking 9,000 people in that space last night. Yeah. Real human beings, real fucking people, like real people.
9,000
or whatever. Like I saw it after like 45 minutes, and there was like 9,000 runs on it.
Damn. Oh, in terms of including
or whatever. Like the numbers were crazy on that shit last night.
Can I just quickly counter Johnny and say that most people don't understand how mobile phones work, but everyone uses them, and so the idea that we should not have high level discussions to curate the honest aspects of this new technology because that dum-dums won't get it. I think that's.
Do you know the difference?
I think that's irresponsible.
Do you know the difference between a capacitor and a resistor? Do you know what the impedance
I do.
Is? Do you know what the
I do, but most people don't need to.
This is where I'm going. That's actually my point, Tangent, about people not needing to know how a cell phone works in order to operate it. That's actually a point that I use often, and we spend a lot of time on the technicals of all these aspects. And you know what they want to know? Hey, tell me which button to push so the money comes out. That's what your average person wants to know. Tell me which button I push to make
even
money.
Your average entrepreneurial person. I know a lot of people on the feet. They have beautiful businesses. They make lots of money. They do better than your average folk, and they do not care. They don't want to take anything into their own hands.
We project our feelings onto others and expect because we're passionate about something that they should be passionate too. And that's.
If there's even a small subset of people who listen to those discussions, who are choosing where they are going to allocate their intellectual energy, because lots of Bitcoin maxis claim that the time that people are spending developing in these other things that they believe are just all useless compared to Bitcoin, that if that energy and intellectual capital had been focused on just purely improving Bitcoin and that ecosystem, and I don't necessarily agree with this, but this is just their point, that the world would be a better place. Bitcoin would be much further along, not just in price, but also in development. So if it's just that small subset of people who get the benefit of these open discussions, like what I had with Richard, to decide how they are going to allocate their research and coding skills, etc., and then everyone else watching is just purely doing it for entertainment, then I still believe it is an incredibly valuable thing to be having these discussions.
You're a freedom fighter, man. You're a freedom fighter. You're in it for the tech. You're very strong but the problem is, like I said, for the average person or the average viewer, their brain shuts off. They lose interest. That's cool. They check out is the minute The minute we start talking about fundamentals and the minute we start talking about things, their brain shuts off. Now, the some of the points that Richard didn't make, and I've got for you from a Bitcoin aspect, is what happens when the cap is reached? How do miners make money to pay for their power bills?
Processing transactions.
There'll still be people will still be paying fees. So the idea is that the fees will replace more than replace, plus with the assumption that the Bitcoin price is higher. So in dollar terms,
that the Bitcoin price is higher. How are they going to afford exponentially
help the audience understand
power bills?
Both. The fees would be theoretically higher in sats. Plus, there's actually a really good argument by a Bitcoin maxi who I won't name, who says, imagine you have a business that is where Bitcoin is foundational to that business. Would you be willing to mine Bitcoin at a loss, knowing that it supports the network that is completely critical to your business? Yes, you would. The answer is yes. So sorry to cut you off, but the answer to that is yes. There are plenty of examples. There are plenty of examples where people would support a network at a loss if it's fundamental to them making a shit ton of money in the business that they have. So
how'd that work out for Willy Woo?
But how downstream is that?
But there's examples in Ethereum, right? Who runs fucking nodes? People who are
Willy Woo didn't.
Willy
Woo didn't have a business that was.
Like not even like a little amount of people, like the smallest.
So nodes, you have to be like altruistic, so to speak. But he's talking about people who actually have an incentive. So
are you going to go to work? Are you going to go to work if you're not getting paid?
So
neither are the miners.
You're missing the point. What I'm saying is, say I'm not talking about Willy Woo had a fund, not a business that required Bitcoin fundamentally for this function. So say you're a Coinbase, where actually Coinbase is probably a bad example because they have a lot of shit.
They're all going down, aren't they? All of the centralized exchanges are in this sort of going down right now.
No,
miners shut off in 2017. They were flipping off their machines because it was no longer profitable to earn. We've already seen them shut down the network.
This is not the point. This is not the point. What I want you to do is I want you to imagine a business that someone has created over time where it's like, I know this is difficult if you're anti-Bitcoin to imagine this, because you're like, why would you have Bitcoin as a fundamental keystone of your business? But imagine you have a business where Bitcoin is a core, fundamental, required technology for the function of your business, and you have a very profitable business, and you are aware that the mining incentives have reduced or whatever. It's not profitable to mine. The question is, would you run miners potentially at a short-term loss or medium-term loss or even a permanent loss?
Tangent, how would you know how long it was going to take for that to become profitable? You can't predict other people's behavior.
No.
It's like a cost of doing business.
Yes, I just said short, medium, or possibly permanent loss. It's literally a cost of your. Thank you, Sam. It's a cost of the business that you are factoring in. That you have to lose money there for you to be able to be profitable in this business that you have constructed with Bitcoin. And this is only like a backup comment. I believe that the fees will adequately cover it, that the fees will easily replace the block reward. The block reward was simply to bootstrap the network when there was not enough transactions to generate fee.
Was a way of distribution. I disagree. The block reward
was both.
Before the distribution became centralized.
Yeah, it's both. It's both. It was also to create an incentive for mining but when there were not enough transactions on the network to reward miners in fees. And that
wasn't about money, Tangent. Bitcoin was not about money. It was pushing it. It wasn't about making money at that time. It was about decentralization. Bitcoin was designed to be distributed to everybody's household. Everybody's household. It was not designed for these centralized entities to come in and build better equipment to push everybody else out of the damn market, which is what they did. And that is the problem with Bitcoin. That is the fundamental biggest problem with Bitcoin, is that they pushed everybody else out of the market, and there is no longer a fair distribution that allows everybody for this freedom to have, because they can't compete. That's the problem.
the topic's starting to deviate away from the original question of what happens when the block reward runs out.
I got a question.
But no. Let me just rephrase what I'm trying to say.
I'm on your side on this one though. Like,
okay.
What happens if everybody adopted Bitcoin and so there was like, let's just say there was like 500 million users every single day using all the block space on the network, right? That's where the fee money would come from. But the problem you run into is that technically it can't complete that task or it overloads. So there's a logical breakdown of the actual code itself. So it really fundamentally can't be sound money unless you adopt the Lightning Network. But when you adopt the Lightning Network, now no longer can you earn fees because the entire structure breaks down. So it's broken tech, bro. It sucks. And I wish there was an answer.
You said I want to hear Tangent's side of this, because like, so if hypothetically there's a tremendous 100x of users on holding Bitcoin, right? To access is what he's trying to say. It comes across that there's a big uptick in adoption. The volume increases, the price of a transaction increases. That's how miners are paid in 165 fucking years. We'll be dead by that point, right? New shit's going to come along anyway. So it's kind of like a trivial, conversation to start with. But the idea is that Bitcoin cannot actually process that many transactions, and they would switch to, Lightning, which does batching and etc. So Tangent, what's your take on that?
There'll always be demand for the base layer settlement, and so it'd still be required to open and shut channels and that sort of thing. I don't think it'll be issues. It just means
I agree with you. I agree with you, because if you take away all the speculative price action, there's still an underlying market of a mining economy behind it that's bootstrapping it, and they need incentives to mine and profitably. So guess how we do it in the mining industry? We go and we find things like geothermal, where you can operate at a complete profit every single day because your electricity costs are so small.
Energy.
Right? So there will always be it, but you got to understand it's an energy currency, and people haven't figured out it's just going to be marginalized down to zero, because all the trading is going to take place off chain on other platforms. And so it's essentially what it does from a freedom fighter perspective is it gives kids in other countries or people in other countries the ability to acquire a miner at any cost, and in relative value from their native currency to the dollar value of it, even if it's only $500 Bitcoin, that's still meaningful to them in their country. So it's actually siphoning value away from the centralized Federal Reserve note system and whoever else is leveraged into that and benefits from that. And it's decentralizing it in a really backwards way, because people are able to get closer to the inflation source. So that's actually what's happening. And that's actually where the value is right now. The question remains, again, if it's not all about money, then what are we doing in cryptocurrency? Because that's the whole point. Those people are benefiting from Bitcoin that way. Venture capitalists are benefiting from the speculative price action. And the truth is, it's another one of the big cryptocurrencies that's going to be here forever, and it's going to maintain a steady baseline. But mad gains might just, you might make it to $1 million in 40 years. But what about all the opportunity costs on the way? That's just bad business practice.
I don't think any technology is here to stay forever. And television is not here. Blockbuster is not here. I think it's actually insane to think any technology doesn't get outdated. Nobody's using a Nokia phone. Okay. The technology is supposed to advance. It's what it's supposed to do. When you are designing and building in technology, you start with prototypes and you improve over time. What has kept Bitcoin and other currencies alive so long is the lack of innovation, because they are incentivized to keep things the way that they are, because they're in control of the system. It's become so centralized. So they have no interest whatsoever improving on the network or making it better or making it more functional. It's just how it is. And just how it is how you get left behind.
Well, Bitcoin maxis say that Bitcoin's not MySpace, it's the internet, and it will grow in layers like the internet did. So the
And you
internet
can
would be an
believe what you
example
wanna
of a
believe.
technology
You
that
can
has
be
not gone away.
MySpace. You can be
There was
MySpace too.
There was no
Right.
internet 2.0. Like, so I'm not saying they're right. I'm just saying that that's the maxi argument is there was no internet 2.0. It literally was just layers of protocols until now we're streaming across the
Hey, that's
world
actually a
with
pretty
like
good
high
point.
def video.
That's an awesome point because look at all the different Bitcoin businesses that have been built over the years. Like the entire Bitcoin economy bootstrapped basically Ethereum, which then bootstrapped everything else. So it's like they're just layered businesses. And like a lot of them are getting.
Ethereum was never created because you can't build on Bitcoin.
Well, no, I meant as an idea, like from an ideal perspective. Like it was, all these things are extrapolations of one original idea, right? It's just technology building. To your point, things evolve and change, and money moves faster than that. So you know the money's going to flow to the next best thing.
And people in general like the new shiny objects, period. People in general forget about the past. I got a stack of baseball cards laying around here. I can't sell them worth shit. You know why? Nobody cares anymore. Nobody cares anymore. You can't sell this shit. You go to collect comic books, you know what happens? They write new stories. You know what happens when they write new stories? Nobody cares about the old stories anymore. Yeah.
Wait. Aren't there some comic books and baseball cards that are worth like an absolute shit ton?
Yes.
Again, people do, there is always a market that people like to overpay for things so they can brag about overpaying for them, but it's not because there's a high demand for that particular product.
That is
because
true.
there is
The
not a high demand
people
for
that buy Pokemon cards do only buy them to brag about them these days, and they do. They wear them on their necks. They put them in little shiny thingy majiggies. Jake Paul walked into a boxing event with
autograph pack of Chronicles setting here. Autograph.
What is this?
Can't sell that. It's like $10 now. About 10 years ago, it was worth probably about $2,000. So, you know, it's one of those things, right? You can hold on to stuff thinking that it's going to appreciate in value, and that's not necessarily, time does not solve everything. And you know, when you reach a point, people do like the new things. They like the new stories. They're all about the new show. They're about the new phone. They're about the new game console. They throw out their other games console. They get the new one. They don't.
I think what you're mentioning, Johnny, is like that marketing, bell curve of people that they call adopters. Us probably enjoy that section that they label on the far left of the bell curve called innovators or early adopters or whatever nomenclatures they want to describe people who like novelty. But there's other portions of that curve who appreciate nostalgia, who like that. If you look at like the search volume for baseball cards on Google, which I just looked up as you were mentioning this, the actual search volume for baseball cards over Google over the last 5 years globally has actually increased on the largest search engine in the world. So, I mean,
but it's just more people are typing on the internet now. Like old people use the internet,
which you could, you know what I mean? There's a marketplace out there, whether you're aware of it or not, to get rid of the baseball cards because there's, demand is increasing, right? More eyeballs, more demand.
Guys, I think we're losing focus here. I'm losing the fucking plot. What is the actual point here that we're trying to discuss?
The point is that new things do replace the old, and people do chase the next thing. And if technology does not improve and evolve, then it gets left behind. Just like VHS, DVDs, Blu-rays, they all get replaced with streaming services over time. And I don't know what the next innovation is, but don't be surprised if something replaces streaming.
Well, streaming, it's interesting. Streaming is just like one of those things too. It's like streaming's like replacing TV right now.
Yeah.
Like, streaming's right in the middle of replacing for real all of TV. Like people, once copyright shit gets dealt with, and it will because there's too much technology, dude. Like literally every single one of my friends can pull up a UFC, including me. I am a computer nerd. I mean, not nerd, like not good with the computer. And I can pull up a $70 UFC stream, have it running beautifully on my computer in 5 minutes, and I don't know shit. And it's just like the technology is making it so like it's like you.
I haven't had a landline in probably 10 years.
What's the idea though, that like the essence of what you're trying to say is that the Bitcoin is going to go away? Is that what you're trying to say?
No, it's not going to go away because there's always a market that people are happy to buy expensive things, to brag about paying for expensive things. But as far as a technology or a monetary system, I don't see that ever really taking hold. It's more of a club. It's more of something you buy to say, look, I have this. You know, it's not where the innovation is. Because go ahead, Tangent. I see.
I've got an example. I've got an example that Jack Mallers brought up at the Bitcoin Miami conference, where he said the payment rails fundamentally that the credit card systems use today have basically not changed since the 1950s. And that was basically when the whole idea of credit cards and that construction like first came about. So in terms of, I don't know if these examples of technologies that have been replaced are appropriate for a financial network.
But there's Cash App and PayPal, and those have changed the credit card system. So those have evolved too.
But I want to hear what the rest of that point was.
Well,
tangent,
I
please.
think,
sorry.
So those are almost like technological add-ons where those things just allow you to use your credit card online, but the payment rails and the settlement systems and shit like that through the banking networks is largely unchanged. So you get like these small technological improvements like tap to pay, and there have been other little things along the way that have make it seem like you're getting like these technological advancements, but the underlying network, the payment rails, have largely not changed. That's according to his presentation, and it sounded logical and believable.
I can understand that. So comparing Bitcoin to a system that everybody uses versus a system that only a few people use is not exactly fair either, because with this other payment system, there is no need for them to use the Bitcoin system.
Yeah, that's actually a fair comment. That's a fair comment. I'm the reason I'm drawing that analogy is because they're both financial networks, and the I guess the network effect is more likely to be similar than something like certainly collectibles, where that it's.
Well, that's what happens when you have a cap on something. You make it a collectible. When you put a cap on something, you make it a collectible because there is a limited supply in circulation, and it's not a monetary system because monetary systems have inflation. Where does the money come from? It comes from inflation. Whether you're at the source of it or whether you're receiving it secondhand doesn't matter. And in Bitcoin, you are receiving the inflation because you're able to purchase it from somebody who's receiving the inflation. Once that inflation stops, it starts being a collectible once you reach that cap. And like I said, people don't go to work for free. This idea of running miners for free is crazy. Okay,
I don't think inflation is
start work until I get my paycheck, and I ain't even going to start work until I get a paycheck. I'm not doing my net 30 or none of that. I'm getting paid up front. But I mean.
So, I don't think inflation is a necessary component of a financial network or monetary system. Like that's just, I don't think that's required for a functioning monetary system.
It is.
And you're going back to looking at this whole like mining thing in a very one-dimensional view where you're only looking at the economics of, am I profiting from this mining? You're not looking at that multi-dimensional example where
because everybody is running a business, runs the business to profit. Tangent.
Yes, but
it's part of the business.
It's
is what
part
he's saying.
of the business. It's
like I don't just buy insurance for my business because I think it's a fun thing to do, right? Because it's part of fucking doing my business. I don't.
But
want
there's
to pay
other
insurance.
ways.
Yeah, but what about the you always also mention that the validators have no incentive, so why would people do it? Is you get it helps the network. Your
Sam gets what I'm trying to say. A cost of doing business. And that,
Right.
Yeah, but I mean,
well,
there's
my
always
example-
the cost of doing business, but
cost,
some
but-
costs of doing business are a big pain in the fucking
Yeah.
ass, and some are just putting your money on.
Guys, that's just one example of how it could work if the fees don't cover, which I believe they will. So primarily fees cover. If they don't, then this other thing is possibly a thing.
But you also
see what I'm
have,
saying?
yeah, but because you got to put this, you said multidimensional, right? Because yes, those are two pieces of it. And then when you factor in what Axis was saying, you have there's two pieces there too, right? So Bitcoin, right, mining is driving down. I would like to actually buy a house and just mine fucking Bitcoin instead of rent it out to fuckers, because it would be better for me to do that than to rent it out to people, and the cost of doing that. And what does that give me an incentive to drive my marginal cost of energy down? Marginal is just like that next dollar cost of something. So I'm going to put batteries on, right? In the process right now of adding solar to my house, right? And doing these things so that you can drive this cost down. He was talking about geothermal, right? It's going to drive the cost of that down. Now, what also happens, because you have both of these incentives taking place simultaneously with Bitcoin, you have the cost. If I'm a miner, I have an incentive to make my shit more profitable, because somebody had just mentioned that, right? To be more profitable for your business. Cool. Completely agree. So what do I do to be more profitable? I
Wait for the top and dump.
Drive down the cost of my marginal electricity cost. And what also takes place in there. There is an incentive to create more powerful mining computers, right? So that the technology is going to accelerate in terms of the capacity of, like, I'm not that technical on that side, to mine is going to go up. The cost of the electricity is going to come down.
Why is the waste necessary?
Pardon?
Explain to me why the waste is necessary.
Well, hey, better question. Better question for you. You use the word waste. Why do you feel the need to describe something that is helping the society as a whole drive down the cost of electricity as a descriptive word of waste, when it actually, there could be a far different argument that it is actually benefiting society, because who invests into new technologies? People with money or financial incentive to do that. So if I'm driving the cost down for you fuckers because I'm mining, who does that benefit? All the people that I drove down the cost of things. I'm putting solar in my house. The cost of solar every year for the past 20 something years has continued to come down, right? Because people just continue to invest.
I'm going to give you a new phone.
There's a subjectivity to what.
This phone is faster, and guess what? Now you no longer have to pay a monthly service charge. It does everything that yours does, faster, better, no external cost whatsoever. It's free. Now, you going to still use the old phone that you're paying a monthly service charge on, or are you going to use the new phone that I'm giving you for?
Are you trying to equate this to proof of stake, where Tangent already mentioned that there's a risk? You increase the risk. Tangent already talked about this earlier. By switching to proof of stake, there's a increased risk of the system, right? Where the vulnerability is in the system, or the ability, incentives for people to attack changes based upon the price of the underlying asset.
Most people will take the free phone.
But can't you just do Ethereum?
90%.
Isn't Ethereum just, you still mine Ethereum, right? Like, you can mine Ethereum, and isn't Ethereum, from what I hear, more secure? I don't want to say that to be certain, because I don't know the ins and outs of that, but I've heard that over and over again in my time.
Johnny,
Ethereum is clearly going to have better price appreciation than, we all know that. We all know that Ethereum is going to have better price appreciation than Bitcoin. And if you don't know that, then you just,
Johnny, I don't think giving someone a free phone is a good analogy for proof of work versus proof of stake. Of course, if you say, here's a free phone, your plan's going to be cheaper and you get better shit, of course someone's going to take that. That doesn't that. That's not a good analogy.
He's saying that proof of stake is better in every way, and he just thinks people are going to use that.
Bitcoin in 8 years. I'm not paying $6,500, okay, to buy Bitcoin mining that depreciates, pay my power bill so I can break even in 8 years. Yeah, that is where you're at with the average person trying to compete. I've already talked to Big K about it. He was running these abysmal numbers on trying to figure out what it actually takes to compete on the network and actually earn Bitcoin. instead of buying it from somebody else. And people got this problem. Oh, I'm not buying Hex. It's buying Richard's bag. You're buying Bitcoin. You're buying Richard's bag. You're buying other people's bags. You're buying something that somebody else has created, no matter how you want to go around doing it. But you know what? I'd rather be next to the source of the money because I'm creating new coins without that externality of waste that you guys don't like me say waste, but it is. It's wasteful. You are doing stupid pet tricks that you don't have to do to be next to the inflation. That's what you're doing.
Johnny, I agree with you. I have a cool idea. You guys want to hear about a cool business that's a Bitcoin business, but it's attached to another business that it ends up turning waste into productivity?
Sure.
So if you're running a giant industrial sized dairy farm, there's a lot of extra cow shit and it's waste. And you can take that waste which is called a slurry pit, and you convert it into nitrogen for soil and methane gas. And then that methane gas can actually be converted into electrical energy by the use of a biofuel generator. And then that can be hooked up to a mining farm where you can actually get some dollars back on all of your investment, burn the energy in a more clean way, and get the byproduct of resaleable items as well. So it's kind of like its own little mini economy just attached to your industrial sized farms all. So that's just like one example. But I mean, this is very far reaching and very far away from Satoshi's vision. And I think that's kind of the point.
That's an example of stranded energy, which is something I talked to Richard about. So you've got stranded energy sources that you would not, so that energy that you're creating there would be very difficult to actually involve it into an existing energy grid. But you can remotely mine Bitcoin and then transfer that economic energy to somewhere else where there is an energy grid. So that actually is an appropriate example of stranded energy.
Interesting. And I don't, this is a question for anybody who has any insights or thoughts on this, right? So you have, I think, isn't it Solana that uses different type of, I'm going to call it mining, right? Or you have like helium, or you have the Chia thing that's coming out, or you have Bitcoin. Why couldn't mining by changing the way, instead of just solving a mathematical problem, be done in a different form?
Richard tried this before he made Hex.
That's exactly what proof of stake is, though. It is literally,
but it's very centralized.
The change. Look. What was the action to get your Uniswap? What was the action? You used Uniswap. That was the action. You have to do a qualifying action to qualify you for the new coins. The action is being changed from proof of work, which requires equipment and electric. And I'm not going into this green shit because I don't care whether it's free or not. It's unnecessary because there are other ways of distribution that are better, that don't require the externalities. They don't require the external sell pressure. You learn better ways of doing things. You drive a hammer with the nail. Now they got hammers that, your air hammers that just go pop, 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 pop. You find more efficient ways of doing things. That's what technology is about. To say that the Model T is going to beat a Lamborghini in a race is just not going to happen. And if you're nostalgic,
nobody's saying that. But you,
bro, so many of these analogies are terrible, man.
Yeah.
Come on, look.
Go ahead.
Let's just break this down. Let's just because I made this point on the debate with Richard. It's true, right? Most of these arguments are based on a foundation of, do you believe that proof of work is required or not as a consensus algorithm? If you believe no, then all of this other conversation just goes out the window and there's no point even discussing it. All the energy FUD shit only matters if you believe that proof of work is required to maintain a consensus algorithm. So the first thing you need to discuss is whether proof of stake can actually be an appropriate consensus algorithm. And in my opinion, it's unproven. It's unproven tech. So and then comes all the subjectivity of what is a waste of energy, whether Bitcoin is got enough renewable or not. Orca went even a level deeper and said, I don't even believe in this climate crisis bullshit. So that's even That's one level below whether you believe proof of work is important. Is, do you actually believe that energy use is a problem, like in our world, in our universe?
That has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, nobody
No,
cares.
it does. No, it
Why
does.
does
It,
that matter?
it fundamentally
care about
underpins the
fucking
entire
back on that
discussion.
shit. I'm
I
gonna
don't
buck
care
back
about
on
this
that too.
being
I think
bullshit.
anyone
I
with a
hate it.
brain knows that's all just fucking media bullshit. Like everyone
I-
knows that. I mean, they're gonna use it to leverage shit, but like I think even Richard would just say, like, yeah, it's just a talking point. Why is that the whole basis of the conversation that you're trying to bring up? Of that the energy thing. That's not the make or break for everyone. That's just a
No.
point.
Yeah,
It's just
so-
an add-on. So
Jim
that
Rat-
couldn't be
So
the
I don't
Jim
even
Rat,
like.
for
I
anyone-
don't even like when he does that, destroying the environment. What I'm saying is, look, if you can do something easier, and it's more, and it allows more participants, okay, that would be a more fair distribution. I don't like the centralization, and like 1% of all mining control like 40% of all the mining, and
Everything's
that you know that, and Rags put that out there. But what I'm saying is, there are more efficient ways of doing things. There is more fair and even distribution of things, and I'm not concerned about the power loss or power whatever. Only reason I bring that up is because nobody seems to think what happens when the cap hits, and then how do miners make their money in order to maintain the network. This is just, this is just forethought. It doesn't matter to me because I've moved on and I'm not interested in participating in any proof of work networks because I see it as an unnecessary action. And that gets to the argument where,
But that crypto curricula brings up a point, right? That I mean, this probably was not his point off of this, but it brings up what I was literally thinking. To me, right? You guys both have more experience than me. I see Bitcoin or Ethereum more decentralized, right? Because if you look at Pulse Chain or something that's going to have 32 validators, to me, that's far more centralized, right? And I know this is like, you're like, oh, that's such the surface level of things, but like, it's how it comes across, right? To me, it just, when you have 32 people or 32 teams of individuals who are controlling the network, right? Versus you're like, well, 1% controls 40% of the mining, right? Well, you have miners involved on the one hand, and over here you don't have miners involved. You have 32 people or 33 people controlling it.
Does it matter who picks those, Sam? I'm just asking your opinion.
For what?
Like who picks? Like who picks
what?
the 32? Like because you don't.
But they're not getting no. So the difference in the Pulse network, when you're talking about the 32 validators or whatever, it is the first truly deflationary supply because it is burning coins and it starts at a high number and it ticks down, as where Bitcoin is ticking up or it has a set number. Okay, so that's kind of a different environment, and the coins are being distributed. They're not really being distributed; they're being recycled. They're being redistributed. So that is a different system altogether, and it is an experiment, and we have to see how that works out. So that's different.
You had mentioned that I think a minute ago that people are gaining value from inflation relating to Bitcoin, but then with Pulse, right, you're like people are gaining value not from inflation. You said something along the lines of like all people gain value from inflation, otherwise you're not going to gain value, and yet Pulse Chain is not inflationary, right? It's deflationary,
but it still gains money from the
right. It's because of the distribution.
World.
It has a different type of distribution method, and again, that's why I say in Pulse's case, this is something that hasn't been done, and that's new. So again, like I said, I don't know how that's going to work out. But the difference is if you are going to do something like Pulse where it doesn't have inflation, it just starts at a supply. That's more like there's diamonds in a mine, okay? And the mine is distributing the diamonds out over time. They're going in, they're pulling them out, they're distributing over time. So basically, it's defining the mine, and there will never the full circulation. Change is pulling his hair out.
Bro, your analogies are killing me, man. Like,
dude, they're not killing me. I totally understand them. Like, to be honest, and just because I think it's fair to say, Tangent, your brain waves are in a way different spot than like 95% of people
No,
want.
it's not that. I think like analogies can be useful, but these ones aren't.
You need to
Like,
say something strong pointed. Like, I need an analogy from you. Like that. So you're talking in riddles over there. At least I'm getting some kind of elementary fucking, you know, I need you to be really direct with your point. And not that you're not being, but I don't know all the shit.
You can't where
I don't have a point. I'm just learning.
I'm going to finish the point.
He's
okay?
just saying that proof of stake is more efficient than proof of work. He said it 100 times. If you think that that's a riddle tangent, then you're not operating properly at this
okay,
point.
but then you do
five
need
times in a row, and you're acting like he's saying some sort of off-ball shit, but it's not true what you're saying. The truth is he's saying it's more efficient. I can sit here on my computer and participate in proof of stake in 2 seconds. And I'm going to buy a miner, fucking leverage my whole house on the fucking electricity bill.
More efficient in what way? What does that
Easier
even mean?
For more people, faster.
Why?
To buy it, to send shit, what to what? Like,
well, I'm just talking about proof of stake in general. Like, why is Ethereum moving their whole system state to proof of stake? What are they trying to do? What is the roadmap for? Why? Because they want to become more efficient, better.
Well, I'm not on the team, so you're asking the wrong person. But what,
okay, we'll bring up the
someone
team.
like either you or Johnny, explain to me what you mean by proof of stake is more efficient. Please explain that statement, and not with analogies, just with direct language. Why is proof of stake more efficient than proof of work? And what does that even mean? Like, in what way? What does it mean?
Well, for one, it's got faster speeds. Two, it doesn't require a level of greatness to participate, so everybody can participate. That's
what does that mean exactly?
So it's only got faster speeds.
Know how to run a miner, set up your nice hash, set the algorithms, keep the upkeep on the miners.
I've never met a person in real life that's done mining.
Everybody can participate. The easier you make something, the more adoption you get. The more difficult you make something, the less adoption you get. The higher the prices go, less adoption you get, because you limit the amount of participants that can participate. Okay? You start setting price points, you start setting requirements, you start setting equipment to buy. The more things that are compounded, the more complexity in the system, the more difficult it is to get new users, because it requires a certain level of understanding in order for them to participate that they may or may not have any interest in doing to begin with. And as they go through these levels, they may become more and more disinterested and less more likely to participate. So if the goal is for the world to be taken over by cryptocurrency, you need a system that everybody can participate in, not a system that only a few can afford to participate in. And that's it.
Most blockchains,
and I think that's a good point. You got to at least give them that it's a good point, that it's a fucking large barrier to entry. Like, my God, he was so right when he said, like, the smartest people I know, literally the smartest people I know have mining rigs and shit. And like, it's just a very small amount. Never met one in real life. I've been around the fucking block, dude. I did sales house to house for a long time. I'm not saying none of those people were doing shit in their basement that I didn't know about, but nobody brought it up to me. I was in basements. I was drilling holes through walls. I was checking everything out. I never interacted with someone in my 6 years of doing that had any mining understanding or brought it up to me. I never ran into it in the real world. And now I'm realizing it even within the crypto world. Like, I thought I was just like a noob. So I was like, this whole mining thing's like, oh, I'll get there at some point. But now I'm not really, I'm not even interacting with it because it's unnecessary. I'm a new user.
But users are, I think that the points are getting conflated there between users and mining.
Let's break some of this shit down.
True.
Most blockchains that claim to have higher speeds it's just nonsense claims where their blocks are either empty or they're not comparing like with like in terms of transaction finality. That is real. The point about easier to get involved with the network, I don't see how there are any additional, like, more difficult technical barriers to be involved with something like Bitcoin than there are with Ethereum or like any other shit. It's like,
to be next to the inflation there is. But yeah, if you're comparing it to Bitcoin, we're talking about moving to proof of stake versus proof of work. Proof of work has a less barrier of entry, or proof of stakes has a smaller barrier of entry. All you have to do is click a few buttons, as where if you're mining, that does require some education and does require you to be.
Oh, you're saying technical barriers of entry to being one of
Comparing
the
mining with
network
purchasing?
participants that actually secures the network. Like, so you're saying
'Cause they're
it's
different
easier
things.
it's easier to just stake coins than it is to try and set up miners. I agree. I agree with that. That it
Hey,
is
can I make a
easier to-
distinction here? I think Johnny's talking about proof of weight, like staking X, versus like you're talking like ETH 2.0 proof of stake that runs a consensus network. Two different terms.
Either-
Mixed terms.
Either example, I actually agree with.
It's important to make that distinction because yes, proof of.
But
proof
I
of
actually
weight
agree.
is super easy.
I actually agree, regardless of which one you pick. I
Yeah.
agree with what Johnny's saying on that. That it's easier. It is easier to stake coins, whether it's
Okay.
staking in Hex or staking in like a staking protocol, than it is to have to set up miners. Because I've experienced both, and maintaining miners is a headache. So that I agree with, but I don't agree with this coin is faster, because we see that a lot in crypto. That's one of the claims that people are like, this coin is, because there's the blockchain trilemma, right? It's security, speed, and cost. Or is there another one, or is one of those wrong? Like, whatever. But there's a trilemma, and so you're going to make a sacrifice. If you want your network to be like faster, you're going to have to sacrifice. Sorry, decentralization is one. So it's decentralization, speed or transactions per second, and security. And basically no one has been able to actually solve that trilemma to move off that triangle. Typically, when you're improving or saying that you've improved one of those three things, you've sacrificed one of the other points of the triangle.
Fast, quality, and price. It's typical research and development stuff. If you want it fast, it's not going to be good. If you get to pick two. So that trilemma has been around a long time for.
Yeah, that's a different trilemma. But yes, the blockchain trilemma is real, and I've yet to see anyone, like, I've seen plenty of projects claim that they've solved the trilemma, and they're like, we're doing everything. We've got faster than Bitcoin, it's more secure, and it's more decentralized, or as decentralized, and it's always been bullshit. I've never seen anyone actually solve the blockchain trilemma. So yeah, but that's just my opinion. You guys can decide.
I think this is a good place to wrap up. I mean, lots of ideas went on around here. I don't want to drag it on too long. I think this has been a really interesting conversation. Everyone's learning a lot. All this technology is going to pan out whether we like it or not. So we're all just going to be here waiting and seeing and participating in the ways that we want to. We're probably going to outpace anything everyone else is doing anyway. So it's not too hard to do that once you learn this stuff, because we are way closer to inflation than everyone else, whether it's a mining, whatever situation, or you're just staking coins or whatever. You're a lot closer to the source than you were before. There are not as many middlemen. Johnny, Tangent, Axis, Sam, thank you so much for being here. Do you guys have any closing statements before we go?
I just want to say thank you to Johnny and the way that Tangent broke that down from the mining standpoint of you were going back and forth between proof of work and proof of stake, and the clarity between, you're kind of mining both, right? But one is far easier in that way, which I guess Johnny was saying, but then with Tangent's clarification, it clicked for me. So thank you, Johnny, for that. And thank you for bringing that, like, the clarity between those two things for me, Tangent. That was helpful. And I think this conversation was super interesting. I enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it as well. And that's all I got. Check out the links down below if you guys want to support in other ways.
Yeah, I agree with Jim Rat. I agree with Jim Rat that time will tell. Like, time will tell. A lot of these things are going to require time to tell. Good chatting with you guys.
Yes. Let's break it down with some DeFi proof and take us out of here. Let me see if I
hold on one second.
I want to say thanks, guys, for having me on. I do respect you. I know we think on different wavelengths. I think we get very passionate because we're trying to relay those ideas, and it's sometimes finding those bridges in between to get those points over that sometimes is difficult. So
but it was good. Thanks for coming on, because I thought this was a very interesting conversation for myself, and clearly some of the viewers thought that too, because we haven't had 120 in a little while watching concurrently. So other people enjoy the conversation and the dialogue and the back and forth. So, this is a good thing. This is how we come to those, greater depths of understanding by, flushing out different things back and forth, right? And it might seem like we're butting heads, but in reality, this is how we gain a better understanding of ideas.
This is how guys talk about shit. Like, this is how we learn. This is how we push ourselves. This is how that's what we do on this show. I'm going to have a couple more panel shows this week because I think it's a good time to get with some guys. It's been a while. We've been talking about a lot of other stuff. Let's get back to the basics a little bit, learn. And guys, if you want to donate, I dropped a link down there. Go here after the stream. Guys, there's a link right there. I'm not sure who that's for, but Bullish sent it.
That's Crypto Heartbeat and Rags. That's Crypto Heartbeat and Rags. They're about to announce their project.
So let's make sure we go over there, throw biceps in the chat. Make sure you let them know GRC sent you and the crew, guys. I'll be here maybe later tonight. I'm doing some 4th of July stuff, so who knows? I might be drinking a little bit, and I'll come on live and chat with everybody. And I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Axis, when is our round 3? He might not be there. Anyway, if he jumps on, we'll say it.
Why didn't Orca come on?
He's been up for like 3 days straight.
All right.
He's just eating.
Fair.
Hell yeah, dude. I'm on the road today, too, so this has been really
awesome. And we should take this out of here.
Yeah, we're losing. We're going to have to transition out.
All right, let's.
Nice job, Dandy.
Young folks, you tripping on them motherfucker.
Richard Heart. Richard Heart.
Bought my hex from the fucking start. .1 every day we mark. Bought my hex from the fucking start. Sacrificing all this bread like I'm Richard Hart. Got paid on big payday and I had a hairy restart. Now I'm checking on my pulse just to check my heart. Bought my hex from the fucking start. Sacrificing all this bread like I'm Richard Hart. Got paid on big payday and I had a hairy restart. Now I'm checking on my pulse just to check my heart. Checking my MetaMask moving. Look at the hex, he is mooning. Looking at wives they be choosing. Peter is why they be losing. Pull chains out and they'll get me a check. He's gas up and got me a mess. Remember the times he died collect. Hex I been eating, I'm dying in the best.